Hello, my name is Crisola Riola. I will be talking to you about the IQ NeuroMyth for the class Theories of Teaching and Learning EDGR 535 for Concordia University on this 26th day of September 2017. Before I begin, let me explain that a neuromyth is the common but incorrect belief about the brain held by educators and others. An IQ test is defined as the psychological measure of a person's intelligence quotient, otherwise known as the IQ. However, according to psychologist John M. Grohl, IQ is not real. It simply is a philosophical construct psychologists have created to describe a subset of human functioning that they believe to be subjectively important in a modern society. So what does IQ test actually measure? Well, it has two areas that it measures. It measures the verbal, which constitutes of the sections information, digit span, vocabulary, arithmetic, comprehension, similarities. These go through a series of testing general knowledge, digits to repeat forwards and backwards, to check auditory recall and freedom of distraction, vocabulary of expressive knowledge, and mental arithmetic, distractibility, as well as numerical reasoning. And comprehension focuses on issues of social awareness with some questioning. And then in the similarities, it measures concept formation and checking similarities and dissimilarities in objects. In the second area of performance, they look at picture completion, picture arrangements, block design, digit, symbol, and object assembly. Here they go through a series of pictures, looking at attention to detail. The arrangement area looks at logical sequencing. Block design is to match patterns from cards to actual physical blocks. Digit symbols involves copying and coding pattern. And then the object assembly is a section where they get small jigsaw type puzzles. However, IQ tests are misleading for a few reasons. First of all, let's start with PsychBlog stating that one number does not accurately describe a person's thinking skills. So we shouldn't look at an IQ number as one's accurate thinking skills, or measure of thinking skills, I should say. The results show that intelligence has at least 3 components, not just 2, where a regular IQ test or the common IQ test only measures 2 areas. Intelligence is found to have 3 different components: short-term memory, reasoning, and verbal ability. 2 of these are not even mentioned in the regular IQ test. Also, studies found that culture has an effect on IQ, and culture is not taken into account in the regular or common IQ tests. Results are contingent based on a person's cultural background, so the standard IQ tests are a little bit biased to one particular culture. Also, age is a variable. It shows, research shows that IQ can change based on age. So you may have an IQ right now, and as you get older, your IQ could change. Also, IQ tests measure only certain types of abilities, not all abilities. And also the biggest misconception here is that intelligence and IQ test numbers are not a value of self-worth. So that is one of the biggest misconceptions and myths here. Here you can see that brain scans show distinct abilities mapped onto specific circuits of the brains. In the article Fractioning Human Intelligence, it states that human intelligence is composed of multiple independent components, that each behavioral component is associated with distinct functional brain networks, and also the higher order G factor or general intelligence factor is an artifact of tasks recruiting multiple networks in the brain. Also, their research states that components of intelligence disassociate when correlated with demographic variables. Here, we can see that the claims of psychologists for IQ is that if they can test people with high cognitive skills in one area, their theory or claims are that they must be able to apply it to all other areas of cognitive skills. However, the IQ test does not measure or check the application of this theory to other areas. It only is specific to certain abilities in certain areas based on that test. Also, we've all had that situation, just personal experience, where you've met or have someone that you know that is either of high IQ or that you regard as a smart person who does not always make the smart choice or logical choice because, as stated, the IQ test does not test their application into other areas of cognitive skills. It's very specific to only certain abilities and skills. Next, let's talk about a couple of other IQ-related myths. Some common misconceptions regarding IQ are that if you have a higher IQ, then that must mean one of these three options. One, that you are either left or right-brained, or that you function higher on your left side or on your right side. However, functions and connections are distributed fairly evenly throughout the brain, and there is no research that says that only one side of our brain is more powerful than the other. So that is a myth. Also, another misconception is that if you have a higher IQ, you have a bigger brain. However, if that were true, then dolphins and humpback whales have bigger brains. So does that make them smarter than us? Not necessarily true. That's also just a myth. Size of the brain in this case doesn't matter. All right. Another misconception is that the higher your IQ must mean you use more than 10% of your brain. Well, actually, that's also a rumor. We don't use all of our brain cells. We do, we just don't use them all at the same time. In this case, I'd like to give an example of a car. The car has many main parts in order to run and get you from point A to B, but you don't need everything else on in the car, like the AC, the heater, the windows down, the wipers on, the radio on, the headlights, etc. All the other things the car has inside, we don't really need to use them all of the time. And the ability to use only what you need at a given moment does not mean that the whole car doesn't work or that it's not able to work. It just means that you're being efficient and intentional with what you choose to use at that time that's best suited for the moment. All right, another IQ myth or another IQ related myth is that IQ does not change. The research has found that it can change. They studied a group of teens for over 4 years, and they found that their IQs increased by as much as 20 points in those 4 years. They also found that it can change throughout adulthood, and those changes can either increase or decrease. They also found that brains can adapt and the structure itself changes even through adulthood. So correlating your IQ saying, hey, my IQ is this at a certain age, and it's never going to change, that's not true. You might go up, you might go down, you just never know. All right, so we have a tendency to assess children and determine their courses in education relatively early in life, and we have shown that their intelligence is likely to be still developing with the research here. So one of the articles, The Biggest Myth About IQ, suggests that we should be careful not to write off of these students who are poor performers or have a low IQ at a certain stage in their life, because they may still be improving significantly in the next few years. So my warning here with these neuromyths, particularly to the IQ neuromyth, is that as educators, we need to be very cautious of how we portray and display and talk about these ideas to our children. These myths can cause confusion in their identity and flawed notions of self-worth that really affect them in the long run. So if we start giving these labels and worths of these values to their identity, then we can really set them up for failure or for success if we can be effectively teaching them the right theories. So that's my call to action. Just make sure that you are portraying these ideas in an appropriate way. Thank you for listening to my explanation of the neuromyth of the IQ, and here are my references. Have a great day. Thank you.